Well, good morning and welcome to First Friday Means Business on this Friday, June 5th. We absolutely do thank you for taking the time to come and be with us today. We know that the summertime can be very busy. It can cause us to be all over the place and all spread out. God has gifted us with a day of very beautiful weather today. I don't know where this great weather was last weekend when I was having to make decisions about graduation being inside or outside. But it's a week later, but we're thankful for the rain and the sunshine because we do need both. Once again, welcome to First Friday Means Business. We thank you for coming to join and participate with us today. We do have a great lineup here for you today because it's going to talk a lot about business and opportunities for business in our community. But before we go any further, let us stand for the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. Let us return thanks this morning for breakfast, and let us bow our heads. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come together, to fellowship, to join in unity and love for our community, to hear from the speakers and the leaders of our community, and we pray that you will continue to bless the work that we do for this great community. Father, we return thanks for the breakfast that we received this morning. We thank you for those that labor over it. We pray that it be good for the nourishments of our bodies and our bodies to your service. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, we will go ahead and prepare to jump straight into our program for today. And so first up, on behalf of the city to provide us with City Talk will be City Manager Josh Powell.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you this morning. We have already gotten off to a great start for June. We've been able to approve our city budget last night at the city council meeting, so thank you, Jesus. Seems like a never-ending cycle. But we did pass the budget last night. It's over $88 million. It includes a lot of investment in the community. It includes resurfacing, of course. It includes I'm most excited about improvements to Springdale Park, which is going to be the big project this year, and so we're very excited about that. It does also include, you may have seen lately, we've had a little bit of criminal activity jump, so we've been on top of that. The police chief already had a plan going into this summer season, which is when we usually see a little bit of a peak in that, and so they're being very proactive. We've already got several people in custody that are responsible for the most recent events, so I'm proud of that. We do have also money for fire, of course, and over $10 million for the police department budget. So that makes up a big part of the city's overall budget. The budget does include, last night at the meeting, we did have to make some emergency purchases for some things associated with our water treatment plant and our wastewater plant. Those costs, as you all experience in your day-to-day businesses, I know the cost of everything goes up and up and up and never seems to reach a peak, but we do have to spend a lot of money to keep up the wastewater treatment plant and the clean water treatment plants that we have. So we are going up on our water rates, and that will go into effect with the July billing, which actually will affect the consumption that's happening right now. But it's a $1 increase to both the water and the sewer base rates. And so what that means is if you get a minimum bill from the city, which includes 2,000 gallons of water each month, then your bill will go up $2 for that month. So it's kind of nominal on the user end, but if you have a high consumption, it may make a little bit of a difference this year going forward. We do have, of course, a lot of good events going on. I see Glenda Berry and Nicole are here from DDA and some of their team. We've got some great events coming up. First Friday is tonight at the market on Madison, so I invite you to come out to that free event. And tomorrow morning, of course, will be the farmers market. So that's been great so far. They've been off to a good season so far and have a lot of good vendors. So I'd encourage you to enjoy some of the good amenities that we have in town, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Next up, representing our county commissioners will be Mr. Jared Mathis.
Good morning, everybody. Doing all right today? Yeah. Just to tell you a few things that's going on in the county, we've a lot of you know back last year we got a grant to redo the senior center. It's located on Nathaniel Drive in East Dillon. It looks pretty rough over there, but that thing's going to be getting started pretty soon, so it'll be a very nice facility when it's done. And that, like I said, that was a grant, so it's not costing taxpayers any money. At our last commissioner meeting, we approved our Meals on Wheels contract for the next year. A lot of people don't even realize that the county commission is in charge of Meals on Wheels through the senior center. So if somebody has an elderly person in your family that needs Meals on Wheels or something like that, please reach out, call our senior center. If you have any problems getting anything done or getting in touch with them, feel free to call me personally and we'll link you up. But just a month or so ago, I had a local business owner call me, and he was wanting to get his parents on it for the simple fact that he wanted somebody to check on him a couple of times a week when he was at work. And that happens a lot. You know, these people are going into these people's homes to deliver the meals, and it may be the only time that day that they see somebody, you know, or not that their family's not checking on them, but, you know, people at work during the daytime. So all the time our staff goes in to deliver lunch, and they realize a problem or issue, and they call an ambulance or whatever and get people help, when otherwise they may have had to wait, you know, several hours before somebody else came around. So very important program, I think, for our community. Recently, since we had our last breakfast, we had a legislative tour come to Dublin and Lawrence County. We had 5 legislators flew in to the airport in a Learjet. They were all on the State Transportation Committee. We did an airport tour that lasted about 2 hours, looked at all the facilities, airplanes, runways, and what we were asking for was about $6 million from the state to be able to resurface the airport in the upcoming years, and I feel confident that I think we'll get some help from those guys. Matt Hatchett was there as well. It was actually the same day that that y'all were having the legislative update here at the chamber, so I wanted that update because we were at the airport at the same time, but Matt was able to leave here and catch the tail end of the airport deal. I think, Josh, you were able to do the same thing, but that was a great day. Also, then that following Saturday, we had Kids Cup. I was just back there talking about that with the table where Miss Brenda's at, but we had around 1,300 cell phones ping at the airport for Kids Cup, so I think well over 2,000 people probably cycled through that day. We had a lot of people taking flights. We carried a lot of kids and adults on their very first flight that otherwise probably, and it was free of charge to them. They could make a donation if they wanted to, but they didn't have to. And so a lot of kids got to experience flight that day for the first time. And I wish we had some recordings we could play. We don't, but wish we had some. You could hear some of the oohs and ahs and stuff when kids see their school from the air. Kids want to see about 3 things. They want to see downtown, they want to see their school, and they want to see their house. And it's really hard to find somebody's house when you don't know where they live, you know. And they don't know what it looks like from the air, you know. So, but the school's a big deal. It's real easy to find the schools, and like the West Lawrence complex is amazing from the air, and I can't wait to see the new East Lawrence, and then West Lawrence Middle, and even the city schools are really beautiful from there, especially Dublin High with the turf football field and all. It's very, very pretty, and it's easy to spot, and kids love it. And Josh asked me, said, man, what you got that book for? I said, I just want to look professional. But the county commissioners have been really busy. Miss Brenda can attest to it. This is the county budget, and I think we have around 23 different departments that we're responsible for, and right now is our real busy time of the year. We've already had about 3 budget workshops. We got another one coming up, I think Tuesday after next, and you know, everybody submits their requests, and we have to tell people yes or no, and you know, hurt some people's feelings or whatever, and some things we can do and can't do, and we don't want to put no more burden than we have to on the taxpayers next year. But one of the big things that we've already approved that's going to be coming up is some improvements to our courthouse. We have about I think it's about $300,000 technology upgrade to upgrade all the technology at the courthouse so they can do a lot more virtual hearings and proceedings. That's going to be a lot safer as well, so they don't have to maybe bring as many people from the jail to actual physical court. They can do it over, you know, video feed that way until they get to trial, of course, and then they'd have to come down. But I think that's going to be a big help and something that's needed as well. So I don't want to waste too much time up here, but we appreciate everybody's support. And if anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out. And for everybody, I hear people tell me all the time, well, I've never seen the county budget. It is public record. Anybody can get one if you want it. I think we can even figure out a way to put it online, but if anybody would like to see it, you feel free to come by and look at mine here today, or you can go by the commissioner's office and they'll actually give you a copy of it if anybody would like to delve in. But thanks for your time, and thank you, Mr. OJ.
Since we were founded, the Houston Clinic has sought to provide the most advanced orthopedic services available to men, women, and children of all ages and all walks of life. And today, Dr. Gay and Dr. Richter continue the tradition of service in the Lawrence County communities. From our sports teams through every facet of this community, the Houston Clinic is not only proud to serve you, we deem it an honor. The Houston Clinic, 100 Medical Drive, Suite 400, in Dublin.
As always, we appreciate our sponsors because days like today would not be possible without them. And so today, we're gonna have sponsor talk from John Engler.
Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Hall. We're at the mall. We always appreciate coming out to the chamber events here in Dublin. This is always a lot of fun to be able to kind of talk in June, have a breakfast, and obviously be involved in Christmas, so in the spirit. So with that said, we got quite a few changes going on at the mall. I'm happy to be able to announce a couple of items that it takes a little bit of time with these leases and things in today's world for us to be able to legally be able to tell everybody, but as people know, Five Below will be coming to the mall here pretty soon. They're going to open late July, early August is what they're telling us. We're also really excited to be able to announce, this has been kind of coming out here slowly in bits and pieces, but it's official as of this past Tuesday. They allowed us to do it. Ross Dress for Less will be coming to the mall, which will be a great addition. And so we've got some other things coming down the road, but one thing I'm really proud about with our ownership and our team, we also have a construction background. We made a conscious effort with not only both of these national tenants that we put in their leases and their documentation that 90% of their workforce and their contractors had to come from the Dublin-Lawrence County area. So we're really proud about that. That's something we've been doing in a lot of our properties now. So there is certain specifically materials and things that can't be obtained through this area, but we're really glad to be able to kind of be a community partner and support the Dublin-Lawrence County. There are a couple other things that are going to be happening here in the next few months internally, which continues to show the ownership's multi-million-dollar investment in the mall and our long-term commitment to the Dublin-Lawrence County. And so there are going to be some interior things happening here this summer. And so some mall improvements and restoration stuff that we're going to kind of do to the inside of the mall that you'll be able to see that in the next few weeks. So hopefully around Christmas time, we'll kind of be able to present kind of a newer interior and exterior mall with hopefully a couple more new announcements. So if you're shopping in the mall, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience or parking and stuff like that, but we're excited about everything that's happening in Dublin. And it's just a true, it shows a lot about the city leaders and the community leaders and their commitment to kind of making Dublin such a great place, because these folks come here because of the society and the amenities that the community's provided. So thank you all for having us, and thanks for all y'all do in this county and city.
And once again, thank you to our sponsor. So next up, we're gonna have Mr. Ryan Waldrop, who is going to come and introduce our program speaker for today.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Well, as I was thought about, coming up here this morning and telling a lot of good tall tales about my colleague Eric, but then I realized, well, he's got to come after me, so I probably ought to play fair, otherwise I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. But I am excited to have Eric here in Lawrence County this morning. He's going to share a lot more about his background in a few minutes, so we'll learn a little bit more about him. But what I do want to say is that throughout Eric's career, he's had tremendous success in bringing new retailing opportunities to the communities that he's worked in small and mid-sized communities. And I can't think of anybody else better to share tips of the trade and show us how we can be better prepared to welcome some new opportunities. So without any further ado, Eric McDonald.
Ryan, the check's in the mail. Thanks. So thank you. Let me get myself set up here. I think I'm a roamer, so they gave me this thing. So I'll put this on. So my name is Eric McDonald. I am a region project manager with Georgia Power. I have been with the company, I guess, about 18 months. So I spent 23 years doing local economic development in places like Douglas County, west of Atlanta, Haralson County, further west of Atlanta on I-20, right before I-20 turns to dirt if you're headed towards Texas, and then also in Polk County, so kind of the Cedartown Rockmart area. And let's see here, we'll figure all this out. And then I was able, so I've been about 18 months clean from local politics. But I certainly appreciate all of the hard work because economic development is all about leadership. So what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys today, and before I get started, so I have been known to give out a bad joke or two, but I did want to start out with kind of a math lesson because I got the superintendent here, and I wanted to make sure that I just wanted to seem smart. Again, I'm from Bremen, so don't hold that against me. But didn't you know, it's kind of a quirk of math, that 10 plus 10 is the same thing as 11 plus 11. So 10 plus 10 is 20. Say it with me. 11 plus 11 is... So right. So you have just recognized that you will learn nothing of value today. So the next 45 minutes, or probably 45 minutes you'll never see again. But I certainly appreciate you here with me today. So we're going to talk about retail. One of my responsibilities with Georgia Power, other than trying to do half of it as job as what Ryan does down here on the west side of Atlanta, is to help with statewide retail initiatives. And so I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys today about why retail is important for your communities. It is economic development. Everybody thinks about economic development as, hey, we're going to put a big factory here, we're going to put a data center. Or, we're going to put something in a community that, brings a bunch of jobs, brings a bunch of tax investment. But retail is as important as those larger headline issues. Because if you think about it, it's the quality of life component of your community, right? How many of you started your first job, high school, college, whatever, in a retail establishment, restaurant, right? I think most people did. It's our kids' training ground. It's how we get our employees, how they learn how to deal with difficult customers, how they learn how to make change, how they learn how to do all of those things. It's that third place. I got home, I got work, and I've got my third place. Maybe it's the mall, maybe it's the coffee shop, maybe it's downtown. So it's what brings the trailing spouse on the big economic development projects. I have been part of projects where the community, we lost out because we didn't have the retail amenities that another community have in the trailing spouse is like, I can't do it. So having those components in your community is why it's so important. And the other thing is it's tax based. Retailers pay a ton of tax. They just do it in smaller bodies. So you may not know this, but if you think, what's Dublin's sales tax? 7% or 8? So 8%. So when you include the state's 4 and the community's 4, that's 8%. The average markup, the profit margin on most grocery stores is around 5%. So when you include 5 to 7 is what we hear. So when you include the state sales tax, the local sales tax, and property taxes, the communities had a bigger take of your grocery cart than the retailer, because the margins are just that thin. And you figure most restaurants are around 8%. So they're breaking even. I wanted to talk about why we do that. So, when you think about retail, everybody thinks, man, I want a Costco, I want a Trader Joe's, let's think of the big ones. But you kind of have to start somewhere, and they come in kind of buckets. So usually you start off with your quick service restaurants, your Domino's Pizza, their franchises. Maybe it's a McDonald's, a lot of times is one of the first ones into a market, and it just starts building. And then it builds up here, and you can kind of see the impact and where they pull from. But you guys are probably right in here. So I was looking at some of your information, and we'll go over a little bit of that in a minute. But y'all have the best performing Walmart within, I think it was like 67 miles or something like that. Y'all have an excellent performing Piggly Wiggly. Your Home Depot is an excellent performing Home Depot. So when it does store comparisons, Dublin has a great story to tell. There is a lot of business that happens in your community. And so what that does is that tells the next week you just got a Ross. So as you're working your way up, so you got a Kroger, right? I think we're going to hear we're wanting a Target maybe or something out here is the next thing. Well, the Target, if you look at where people go when they leave Walmart, it's Target. So it's interesting. Maybe that's the next thing. And we'll talk about how you get something like that. And then you can kind of see, this is just really talking about the impact on GDP and jobs. Retail trade has the most jobs in your community. Now, interestingly enough, when I was local, I can remember getting into an argument with the sheriff in one of my communities, and they said, hey, we're going to give everybody a 25-cent raise to be a jailer. They were paying their jailers, this was 2.5 years ago, $11.75 an hour. And they said, Eric, can you tell me where we fit in the jobs at $11.75 an hour, 1 hour west of Metro Atlanta with an interstate, right? I am 1 hour from a metro market. And so I did the numbers. They were in the bottom, golly, what do you, 25% bucket? I think it was like 18% bucket. So when they were fishing for employees, they were paying worse than almost every retail establishment in the community. So when you start thinking about, retail jobs they're not good. They are good. Duncan was paying $13.25 just to shove coffee out a window. So, when you start thinking about those jobs, they really are important in your communities. Now, let's talk about kind of the different kinds of retail. So first you have downtown. This is the heart of most communities. This is, when I go to a community, I don't say, no offense to the mall, I'm going to go to the mall. I don't say, gosh, I really want to go to the strip center or the next time at Walmart. Now, really, I want to go see the downtown. I was able, in fact, I think I spent the night in Dublin 10 years ago to this week when we did a bicycle ride across Georgia. I think we did a double overnight on Wednesday, so I got to spend 2 nights. What was the park? Skag Park? South Park, right? So we'd go down there, and it was, it's the heart of the community. And the thing about downtown that's so interesting is there's 100 different owners, and that's what makes it so challenging. Probably 20 of them have died. Their estate is captured. Kids live all over the United States. They may or may not want to deal with mom's stuff. Then you got some owners who, it's just cheaper to pay the taxes to store their stuff in a building than to throw it away or get ready to use store it. Some people are interested in putting something in their community but don't have the capital to make the necessary requirements in the store and the facility. Some are very much, engaged, they have good tenants. And so that's what, downtowns are challenging when you think about retail development because it's not easy. With the mall, you might have the boxes are owned by somebody else, the big boxes. But usually the common areas, strip areas are owned by one developer, so it makes it very easier to invest money because A, they know what they can do, they can control that transaction. But then the other part of it is they're able to, all of those nickels start adding up in order to make money. But downtown, these are the hearts, foot traffic, Main and Main. This is where you go. I don't know where I'm going to eat, but I know I'm going to go to downtown. The next type of retail is the corridor. So these are driven by demographics. This is location. If you'll notice, your Walmart's kind of at the end of your retail corridor. On your way to your Walmart, there's an Aldi right before you get there. If Aldi could be inside a Walmart, they would go there. If Walmart would let them, like their market is next door, inside, as close as they can get on the way to Walmart. They're trying to divert you from going to Walmart because the Walmart shopping experience is less pleasant maybe sometimes than the one at Aldi because it's smaller. But it's all driven by location. Are they going to be on the AM side of the road? Are they going to be on the PM side of the road? If, I think, what do you got, scooters? Did y'all get to see the scooters coffee? A scooter's coffee is on the AM side of the road because nobody wants to make cross traffic and then left turn out. Everybody likes to ride in, ride out. And they know this, and so it's all driven by that. Typically, it's national tenants. A lot of the malls are driven. Some malls have adjusted to be national and regional or local tenants. Just kind of depends. But usually, the national tenants can pay the higher lease rates that those shopping centers need, whether it's a strip center or a mall. Walmart, Wall Street traffic. It's all driven by investors. We'll go over that in a minute. And it's all traffic. It's a demographic story. So why don't you have a Costco? Because they don't think they can make money yet here. Typically, that's the reason. Why don't you have a Trader Joe's? Well, Trader Joe's goes into markets where there's 2 households, or 2 people households. That's their thing. Everybody wants a Trader Joe's, but if you've ever been in one, their stuff is 2 service houses. They love being downtown. If you got Dublin is more of a family-oriented place, you've got 3.5 people per house. Well, now you got to buy 2 things at Trader Joe's. So again, kind of understanding who you are helps. And then just based on competitors, if you'll see, on your table there's a map, kind of shows where everybody is. Well, they want to know where their competitors are. They want to know where their complementary uses are. Just again, like where Walmart wants to be on the outside, some people want to be on the way or on the way back. And then finally, there's what I call the blue sign retail. You guys have that as well. This, if you can't see it when you get off the interstate, it's probably not going to want to be there. How many people have looked for that Panera Bread in Walker County? Right? Yeah, I'm getting off the interstate, I'm driving down 75, and I'm hungry for a sandwich, and I want a Panera Bread. I get off the exit because I see the thing on the blue sign. I get to the bottom of it, Panera Bread, 3.7 miles. Are you kidding me? I have been betrayed by you, blue sign. I will never trust you again. I mean, that's what they understand, right? So the retailers know that if you can't see it, or if you've got to add a number in front of that dot, probably those folks aren't going to go there. Again, they just recognize who they are. Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about how they choose where they are on your table. Again, it's the retail trade area. So you guys are thankful. Every one of you have a cell phone. You mentioned that cell phone pings, you almost have to place your AI or a tool like that. That thing is tracking you. It is creepy. It is watching where you go. It is watching where that phone spends the night. It is watching where that phone spends the day. It makes assumptions. It knows what you do. And the retailers buy that. So your trade area is not Dublin's. It's not Lawrence County. Because investment in capital and labor doesn't really care about political boundaries. Investment in labor are a blob. So what retailers do is they look at the blob. Your trade area looks something like this. Probably, and that's basically what we did was we hired a company called Retail Strategies to come in. They dropped a pin on a Walmart and they said, okay, where did everybody come from that went shop at that Walmart? And that tells us pretty much, because a Walmart's about the highest traffic generator. Where does everybody come from? And this shows us the concentration of those people. When I was local, we had retail strategies. I would argue with them all the time. No, I think we pulled from a little further than that. I think you could start drawing things out there. But this is basically what it is. And this is the demographic pool that you guys are pulling from. So then they go and they look at, what are you? Are you suburban? Are you rural? Are you small town? Are you a retirement community? What makes up that? Again, credit card transactions, cell phone usage, those type things. And they give you kind of a numeric grade. It's not really a grade, but more of a numeric profile. And that's how the retailers decided, because retailers have said, okay, well, we want people to look like this. They also look at where you go. So, perfect example. Dublin's a great example because y'all have a big draw during the day. So y'all bring in people that may choose to live somewhere else, but they're coming in. So that when do you buy your groceries? On the way home. So probably somebody is going to buy their groceries in Dublin on their way home to their other community. And so again, they look at those type things, and that's why that cell phone bill is real important. And then we start looking at kind of your trade area. So this is how far people know that you'll come. They'll know that you'll go 20 minutes to go to a movie theater, to buy clothes, and they know you'll go 7 minutes or less to get gas. Roughly, again, the further you get out away from the metro markets, a little bit further that is, but down here 7 minutes is 7 miles. I don't know, I've seen Ryan drive, so maybe 7 minutes is 12 miles, I'm not sure. But you kind of see, and so they understand that as they're kind of building that profile. And they just kind of look at what do you guys look like? And then they start comparing you to other places. And I'll show you that list in a second. So how does a retail establishment go from hump to your cash register reading? So if you look right here, first, they wake up and Wall Street says, hey, Panera Bread, well, I guess Panera's private equity, but somebody wakes up and says, hey, you need to make more money. So you can either increase throughput in your stores, or we can increase our store footprint, or we can raise our prices. Those are basically the three ways that retailers make money. So they say, well, we need to make more money. How are we going to do that? Well, we need to identify new store locations. So they start working through this. So the real estate director at a national level says, all right, we are going to go into the southeastern United States because that's where all the growth is. And they start looking, so they find a local rep. It may be a local real estate agent. It may be a broker out of Macon. It may be somebody out of Atlanta. It may be somebody out of Nashville. But somebody who understands an area that they don't, they bring them in. They start identifying sites. They say, okay, well, we don't have a store in Dublin, and why don't we have a store in Dublin? And the other thing they do, and I'll show you the comparison in a second, is they look at your demographics and they say, okay, if we have a store in Statesboro and it's successful, and from a numbers perspective, Dublin looks just like Statesboro, maybe we can put a store in Dublin and it will do just as well. More money, more sales. So they start doing kind of that peer analysis. They figure it out, they go and they identify sites, they present that to their real estate board, and they start putting together the numbers, the pro forma. It's all math. They do a letter of intent with the landowner or the developer, and then they take it to the real estate committee. The real estate committee says, yeah, we think we can make some money there. They sign a lease, and then the developer comes in. So the lease part, right, that is one of the hardest parts because that's where the money is. That's what, 18, 24 months maybe, sometimes depends. Is it a fresh up, and do we have to fix it? What are we going to put in there? Some are faster. And then the developer gets to work. If the store exists, then it's just a retrofit to meet their brand standards. If they got to go ground up, well, that takes more time, and that's a much more complicated conversation with the city and the county. The developer typically is your risk taker. So the developer, if I were a community looking to recruit retail, I don't know that I'd pick up the phone and call Whataburger. I don't know that I'd pick up the phone and call Culver's or whatever the hot retail brand is that I want. I would pick up the phone and call a developer who had built a similar development that had that tenant in it somewhere within 100 miles of my location. Because the developers are risk taker. Retailers are typically very anti-risk. They will go someplace they know that if they're going to make $5, they're going to make $5. The developer is the one who goes out there and takes that risk. Because they're the ones that go out there and start trying to figure out the risk profile. The developer is where you can make the biggest difference in your community's success. And then finally they open, and then you go in there and spend a bunch of money. And that's always really nice. So what is the biggest impact on retail development? The 10-year bond rate. And some people are like, Eric, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If I can take, what is the 10-year bond? Is it like 4.6 or 4.4? I can't remember. Does anybody know? Got any bank? Well, yeah, so it's right in the middle, 4.5. I can park my money in a vehicle that won't catch on fire, that the tenant won't leave, that I don't have to worry about shoppers. I can do all these things and I can make 4.5%, or I can take my money and I can park it in something where I got to deal with the city. I got to go get something rezoned. I got to worry about traffic. I got to worry about all of these different things and make 6%. Some people make that risk profile and they're trying to figure out the difference. So as that 10-year rate goes, that's one of the reasons you see sometimes when that rate is real low, that money wants to make more money. It ends up in development. Other times, like now, it's harder to get because it's pretty safe. You just throw it in there and you make 4.5% all day long. Now, one of the things that kind of drives retail and a successful community is also getting to know yourself, understanding the true nature of Dublin. So first, I always like to say, you've got to control your expectations. All we're asking for is a Trader Joe's inside of Buc-ee's, inside of Costco. Look, Ryan, if you can bring that to Dublin, we will be so happy. I just love AI. So anyway, AI can make all kinds of things. But understand who you are. That's one of the reasons I left those pieces of paper on there. That's one of the reasons that I want you to reach out. If you have a store, if you're trying to do some marketing, if you have a development, reach out to Ryan. We can get you information about who you are. And then go out and tell your story. Understand your peers. Make sure that your zoning regulations are, developer friendly is a hard thing to say, but a lot of communities make it very difficult to locate, especially the closer you get to metro Atlanta. I'm not always limited to metro Atlanta, but boy, some of those communities are really hard. And again, when you put your mind in that developer, all right, I can take my money, I can take $3, $4, $6, $10 million, and I can go and I can push a rope up a hill for 6%. Or I can come out to Dublin and for 5.7% a cap rate, I can put it out here and I can save myself 8, 10, 12 months of headache going through all the processes. Just understanding that. Now, again, you don't want to sell your soul to the retail community. But it does matter if you're in there. And also, one of the things I always like to tell folks is to have a phantom project. If you haven't had a lot of retail development, I think you guys get it, but is to just create a phantom project, try to run it through. Run it through your ordinance, see where the hiccups are. Ask a developer why something failed. My favorite example of this is in the little community that I served before. They wanted, it's just south of Walmart is the site, and they wanted a sit-down restaurant. Our only restaurant is Cracker Barrel in the community I live. Now there's a couple in the downtown, but for years it was just Cracker Barrel by the interstate. And we wanted another sit-down restaurant. This developer is a local guy but had regional experience. Says, look, if you'll let me put a car wash here, I will, that's where my money is. I make all my money on a car wash. I can tie up the site, I can pay for the site, I can put the A-cell, D-cell lanes in. I can do all that on the lease for the car wash. That's 1 acre, and now I've got 6 acres left to go out and shop tenants that we want. I live here too. And the city says, no, we don't want a tunnel car wash in our community, but we'll take the sit-down restaurants, the Logan's Roadhouse or whatever. Like, yeah, the math doesn't work that way. So guess what? That site is now an RV storage lot. And you know what's across the street because it was available by right? A tunnel car wash. So they got the thing they didn't want and nothing else, and a liquor store. And they got the thing they didn't want across the street, and they didn't get the thing that they wanted because they weren't going to work with that developer. So building those trusted is that. Setting realistic goals and targets. In this, I'm going to aim right at my elected official friends. When I was economic developer up in Cedartown, they wanted a Kohl's more than anything in the world. So I'm like, all right, I'll go find out. So I finally found a broker who would take my call and did Kohl's. I said, hey man, let me get a Kohl's in Cedartown. He goes, where? And I said, do you know where Rome, Georgia is? He goes, yeah. I was like, about 20 minutes south of Rome. And he goes, well, we don't have a Kohl's in Rome, Eric. And I said, I understand. What would it take to get a Kohl's in Cedartown? And he's like, yeah, we're not going there. I said, well, what if I gave you a building for free? It was leased to you for $1. I said, would you do it there? He goes, well, I mean, that's a start. I tell you what, if you agree, and I don't remember what the number, but let's just say our net profit was $3 million a year. If the city of Cedartown will guarantee that on January 25th, they'll write us a check for the difference between the $3 million we would have made versus what we did make in that store, we'll locate a store in Cedartown, Georgia. I said, hey, if we go over the $3 million, can we have some of that? He goes, no, it doesn't work that way. So I went back to the city commission and I said, hey, if you want a Kohl's, you're going to guarantee, a $3 million profit to a private entity. Eric, we can't do that. And we didn't. But the thing was, it allowed us to move on. Right? That dominated every discussion. Well, why don't we have a Kohl's? Why don't we have a Kohl's? Now we were able to understand if we want a Kohl's, it was going to cost risk. The city was going to take that risk, not the developer or the retailer. And we were able to move on to much more productive conversations than at that gun Kohl's in Cedartown. So again, understanding realistic goals and then just knowing who you are. One of the other things, we've talked about that, understanding your regional developers. And then the other thing that you guys know more than anything about your community is your property. Remember, the real estate person could be from Nashville. So they don't understand your market. Maybe look at those banks that have closed down 3 years ago, before a vape shop can get in there. Maybe we can tie that up using that, or before we put in a title loan in one of those places. That bank went there for a reason. It was a good location to somebody at some time. Did the market change? Did the bank just go out of business? Understanding what that is. Understanding that Farmer John may not want to sell it today, but might want to sell it in the future. And then getting a price on it. Everybody's like, well, it was $1 yesterday, but since you're here, it's $1.25. But having those understanding and those discussions about your community, because the guy out of Nashville, the guy out of Macon, probably isn't going to know your community nearly as well as you are. I'll give you another great example. Bremen wanted a Chick-fil-A. More than anything, it was going to be we were going to have a parade after who could get a Chick-fil-A. Chicken statue in the middle of town, if we could put that there. It's a giant sandwich with a pickle. And so Chick-fil-A finally showed up, and they said, we want that site. That site had a Texaco on it. And the Texaco guy's like, yeah, I'm not selling it. But we got this site. Nope, I want that site. So we waited, and finally the guy's like, well, okay, I think I'll sell it, but I already sold it to an investor. Well, how are you going to sell it? Complicated small town stuff. So we found out it was owned by a guy named Mike Patel. There's a lot of Mike Patels. So Mike Patel, my son played soccer with a BP Patel. I said, BP, you know Mike Patel that owns this? He goes, yeah, he's down in Noonan. Let me tell you, it was like Hawkeye from the series of MASH trying to get Radar a new pair of boots. Like it was, we went all around it. Ended up the guy who owned the liquor store, another Mike Patel, in Buchanan, had the land lease from the Texaco. And he needed, now interesting story, a lot of folks own those things not just because they make money in convenience stores, but it also gives them ways for family members to get in the United States. There's a job attached there. So now we had to solve the problem of, all right, you needed this number of, and I can't think of the term, but this number of slots so that your family can stay here and have a job. So we ended up finding another guy who was a friend of my granddad's in Buchanan who had a store that he wanted to sell. Oh, right, it took us 6 months to figure out the complicated web, but that's where you know Mike Patel probably. Your kids play soccer with him. You go to church, somebody knows that. There is a Chick-fil-A there now. On exit 11, I-20, feel free to stop by. On your way to Alabama. But just understanding what your property. The other thing to look at is leases. So understanding if you got a shopping center that's kind of dying, or gosh, I'd really love to have Sprouts, or I'd really love to have something different to your grocery store. Understanding when those leases come up, understanding those tenant reps, understanding the landlords. And y'all got a good mall owner that's interested in the community. Not all the shopping centers are like that. Not all communities have that. Macon's a great example. Macon was able to work with whole properties in order to kind of get what they have now. That mall was a cancer. It died, and then everything else started kind of dying around it. And now it's interesting. I think they gave that city for free, or maybe like less than $1 million. I don't remember, but I remember free wasn't free. That's what they talked about. Like it was that was a project. But just knowing your developers, understanding when their leases come up, and if a lease is coming up, try to help that person backfill it. And then here's some things that your prospects don't need to know if you're ever talking to one. They really don't care about your festival. I mean, I know you love. What's the best festival? What's the big festival? St. Patrick's Day. It might be a little different. Y'all might have something on St. Patrick's Day. I don't know. If they're a green beer store, that might be their niche. But that's not going to build a target in Dublin. 2 days worth of traffic, a week's worth of traffic is not going to build that. But just, kind of understanding these things. But these are things that they don't want to hear. And then as you tell your story. So this is Dublin. So we did on the trade area, you can kind of see it there. Your daytime population, you're 60,000 people, 52,000 people during the day, 53,000 household income. And you kind of look, and these are your peers. So according to numbers, you guys are the same as Vidalia, which I'm not sure I agree with. Thomaston, Americus, Jessup, Douglas, Millersville, Thompson, Cordele. Some of those are pretty good examples. So as you start, what I would do is go look in those communities and do they have something I want that I don't? And then I would start trying to kind of solve that puzzle. Tell your story, shop local, go to ICSC, get your communities to do that. This is what you guys are in the blog. Let's see, where do you go? Jeffersonville. So it's probably about right. I would have thought maybe it went over a little closer to Hawkinsville, but I guess they can go up to Warner Robins. Your people need here and go to there. No, where's that target? Right there. Your people leave here to go there all the time. But just knowing that. This shows your gap. This shows that you send $60 million a year in limited service and food and eating out, outside of Dublin. So if somebody were looking to put a restaurant in your community, there's $60 million opportunity in this community. Full service restaurant, so it's $108 million in food. Y'all eat a bunch. And then you can kind of see, your Home Depot does good, but you probably get Lowe's. But you can kind of look down at the list, and this is available to you guys on that. And then this is what you look like from a retailer. This is your story for somebody who doesn't know you. This is what you look like. So they said, Eric, you can talk as long as you want, but we leave at 9. So just and again, co-tenancy matters. When you're looking at your shopping centers, kind of understanding that maybe that lease has a restriction in it. It's crazy, and that restriction might have been put in 30 years ago before coffee places went crazy, before chicken places went crazy. And you can't sell coffee because I might want to sell coffee. Maybe I had a bookstore in here 20 years ago. And then that thing just kind of survived in the lease, and now a coffee place wants to locate in the parking lot. It's a Dutch Brothers or whatever you want, 7 Brew. And now all of a sudden you can't have it because there's an old co-tenancy requirement or lease restriction. So anyway, last thing is just understand it's a process. Capital follows the path of least resistance. Relationships are important. Go check out other places. Go check out other developments. Managing expectations is also a win. Understanding what you can't be. Because you're when you get your 3rd Chick-fil-A, how many of y'all have 2? Yeah, Carrollton just got its 4th. It got its 4th Taco Bell, and when they were building that particular Taco Bell, I thought it might have been Taco Bell's headquarters because it was a 2-story Taco Bell. I don't know why anybody needs a 2-story Taco Bell, but it's people don't understand. Why in the world does Dublin need a 3rd Chick-fil-A? Why in the world are we getting our 4th Taco Bell? Don't go hammering your elected leaders and your city council. They typically cannot control who goes into those things. They can just kind of just control what it is. And it may have already been something that the zoning allows for a 15th Taco Bell in your community. But having those relationships with the developers helps you kind of control those folks. And then, be persistent. Yeah, again, I called the Chick-fil-A guy about every 6 months. I would call the Aldi guy about every 6 months to try to get an Aldi and bring them. Still don't have an Aldi because I want my $2 milk. By the way, if you'll notice, your milk went down probably $1.50 the minute that Aldi opened up in your community. Everybody's milk went down. That's the power of competition. And then Georgia Power is here to help. Why does Georgia Power do this? Our corporate culture is a citizen where we serve, but it's also just kind of baked into our DNA. And truthfully, we can't spin a meter that's not here, right? Our business is to sell power. And we can't sell power to there. The old country song, as Jimmy Buffett says, if your phone ain't ringing, you know it ain't me, right? Like I can't get a customer that I don't have. So it is to our benefit if your community thrives. And our job, Ryan and my job, is to help communities be better, whatever that means. Some communities it's industrial, some retail, some downtown, whatever. We try to bring those resources. Reach out to Ryan. I'm just going to throw you under the bus now. So reach out to Ryan if you have questions. If you are a small business owner, here's the chamber pitch, and you're trying to decide, maybe I want to look at a new product line, something a little bit outside, or maybe I want to add outdoor furniture is a good example. We have tools that can help you make those decisions. Reach out to Ryan. If you have a piece of property and you want to see, would this be good for retail? We have some tools that can help you make those decisions. What do I look like from a numbers perspective? That updates about once a year. Let us help you with those conversations. So anyway, thank you guys very much. This is a copy of the presentation. If you want that, feel free to grab it. And then I think I have a couple minutes for questions, or are we? Anybody have any questions that aren't too hard? Because I'm not that bright. Well, thank y'all very much.
Hi, I'm Greg at Shamrock Honda Kawasaki. Riding season's in full swing, and we've got just what you need here if you're looking for a cruiser, the Honda 1300 Fury. Come see us at Shamrock Honda Kawasaki, 106 Savannah Avenue, 478-272-4563, and get yourself a great deal.
Interesting stuff there. Good morning, I'm Marcia Dixon with the Chamber, and I tell you, the next time you see Intellit, which we always do, why can we not get a Publix here? Why can we not get Olive Garden here? Why can't we get Carrabba's? Whatever it may be, just tell them they should have come to the First Friday Chamber meeting and they would have found out, which was very valuable information. Personally, I learned a lot, and next time we will know more and be able to talk intelligently about it. So thank you very much for that presentation, Eric. On behalf of the Chamber, just a couple of announcements. Next Wednesday, we've got our Drugs Don't Work program here. For those of you who everybody pretty much in here is an employer, is something that you really should consider. This, of course, is part of the Drug-Free Georgia program. It is basically a program where you can bring it into your workplace. It certainly encourages your company to be drug-free, and I can say from experience, because I was in manufacturing for many, many years, it works. If you've got problems with turnover, attendance, employees being uncooperative, it just really makes a difference in the quality of your work. And I can tell you this, the employees who are not involved in drugs, they appreciate your company bringing that into the workplace because it helps them to feel safer every day when they come to work. Plus, it's a 7.5% savings on your workers' comp costs for the state of Georgia, and that averages between $1,000 to $1,500 per employee based on your setup for your company. So please, it's free. It's next Wednesday here, Chamber, or in the King Center at 8 o'clock. We encourage you to come. For the employers who have been in the program, I think they will be witnesses to tell you how successful it could be. So please come, it's free, we'd love to have you. Also coming up, we have our Business After Hours, which is June 16th. It's going to be at Saltwater Fishery upstairs. That's always a lot of fun, so please sign up for that. Also, we have the Ladies Golf coming up in July the 23rd. We're really excited that we've got 29 students that are working this summer through our city schools and our county schools. We're very excited for those students. This is employers, and some of you may be in the room, that help employ those students, so we appreciate very much doing that. Also, Archway, we have 12 students, I think, is that right, that are 10 students through the University of Georgia that are working here with some of the employers for the summer, so we appreciate very much Archway being a part of that. So we have a lot of things going on this summer, and we will not be having First Friday in July. It happens to coincide with the 4th of July holiday, and we got a feeling we wouldn't have a lot of attendance. Everybody will be celebrating the 4th. So just remember that we'll be back at it in August. With that being said, we want to say a very special thanks to our sponsor, who is the Dublin Mall, and this worked really well, talking about retail development, for them to be the sponsor today. And again, thank you very much for your support, what you do for Dublin-Lawrence County, and especially your support for the Dublin-Lawrence Chamber. So thank you very much, and have a great day.